waste my life. I don't wanna waste my life. It's just some things, there's no going back. You know what I'm saying?
jwoodbeats.com.
Yeah, I'm not the one with the issues. I hear you. Now here is your tissue. If I'm moving too fast, I might have to dismiss you. And it's really too bad, cause I really will miss you. But I'm not the one with the issues. I left him at church when I made it official. I murdered the curse with my own benediction. Left God in the dirt, call it death of the fiction. Superstition will be served an eviction. Competition will be left in the ditch. Oh my God, it's too damn hot in this kitchen. The fishes of men are now swimming with fishes. Oops, my bad, I guess I'm moving too vicious. Verses sold, I gotta put them on your wish list. Bless my soul, cause I'm dodging your little hit list. I guess you know, you just lost another witness.
Gotta let me go, gotta let me go, gotta let me go. Gotta let me go, gotta let me go, gotta let me go.
What's up, family? Welcome to another Wednesday night of Bible study with an ex-pastor, where we can learn the Bible and laugh at the bullshit. And speaking of bullshit, man, it took me a lot to get in here today. Like, it was absolutely incredible, man. Like, for the past 10 minutes, I've been trying to get my camera to work, and it turns out I needed to update my Google browser. So I'm in here. I have not had an opportunity to talk to Jason yet, and I don't even like the way my camera is set. So I'm gonna adjust this, and I'm gonna do just a little short introduction today, because tonight is going to be a short episode. This is going to be expedited because right after this episode, I'm going to jump over on the line for tonight's episode of The Hang Up. Well, I'll be hanging out with Matt Dillahunty. But of course, we were not going to rob our community of a night of discussion. So as you are all getting ready, man, make sure to go ahead and like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that alert notification bell. Consider connecting, joining, or supporting this community channel or content in whatever way that makes sense for you. And then, of course, last but not least, check out the merch and check out the books. We got a lot of dope stuff out there. And I just want to do a major shout out to Kyle, who is in the studio helping us run things. Woo woo! Major help. Really appreciate that. And I love seeing you all in the chat. I saw Muttley. I saw Norbert. Obviously, Jason is in the chat. Kelly, beautiful. Yes, wonderful. All right, so let's get ready to have a wonderful night. I'm going to go ahead and bring Jason up on the stage, as tonight is going to be expedited. Man, that was a close one, right? I didn't know if we were going to make it in.
Yeah, you know, you really have to do like I do and start off 5 minutes early with an incense offering, and that'll get everything moving the right way. You know, if you skip that, it's just not going to work.
It's just not going to work, man. And I think that's what happened tonight. I definitely skipped my sacrifice, man. I forgot to get that incense going right. Oh, man. Awesome. Well, we finished up last week on chapter 35 of Exodus, and so we've been marching through this thing pretty well. And just so for the sake of time, we're going to go ahead and jump into it. So let me get my screen shared so that I'm not reading stuff that folk can't see. Let's see. This is going to take a little minute. Bam, there it is. And we do have a super chat. Best get in quick with the super chats then if we're shorter tonight. I know that's right. Thank you for that. And we have £5 there from across the pond. I love it. Thank you, Muttley, man. Appreciate you as always. All right, y'all. So let's jump into this. Exodus chapter 36. The chapter is on the screens. This is Bezalel and Aholiab and every skilled person to whom the Lord has given skill and understanding to know how to do any work in the construction of the sanctuary shall work in accordance with all that the Lord has commanded. Moses then called Bezalel and Aholiab and every skilled person to whom the Lord had given skill, everyone whose heart was stirred to come do the work, and they received from Moses all the offerings that the Israelites had brought for the work of constructing the sanctuary. They still kept bringing him free will offerings every morning, so that all the skilled workers who were doing every sort of task on the sanctuary came, each from the task being performed. and said to Moses, the people are bringing much more than enough for doing the work that the Lord has commanded us to do. So Moses gave command, and word was proclaimed throughout the camp. No man or woman is to make anything else as an offering for the sanctuary. So the people were restrained from bringing, for what they had already brought was more than enough to do all the work. All those with skill among the workers made the tabernacle with 10 curtains. They were made of the fine twisted linen and blue, purple, and crimson yarns with cherubim skillfully worked into them. The length of each curtain was 28 cubits, and the width of each curtain 4 cubits. All the curtains were of the same size. He joined 5 curtains to one another, and the other 5 curtains he joined to one another. He made loops of blue on the edge of the outermost curtain of the first set. Likewise, he made them on the edge of the outermost curtain of the second set. He made 50 loops on the one curtain, and he made 50 loops on the edge of the curtain that was in the second set. The loops were opposite one another, by the way. And he made 50 clasps of gold and joined the curtains one to another with clasps. So the tabernacle was one whole. He also made curtains of goat's hair for a tent over the tabernacle. He made 11 curtains. The length of each curtain was 30 cubits, and the width of each curtain 4 cubits. The 11 curtains were of the same size. He joined 5 curtains by themselves and 6 curtains by themselves. He made 50 loops on the edge of the outermost curtain of the one set, and 50 loops on the edge of the other connecting curtain. He made 50 clasps of bronze to join the tent together so that it might be one whole. And he made for the tent a covering of tanned ram skin and an outer covering of fine leather. Then he made the outright frames for the tabernacle of acacia wood. 10 cubits was the length of a frame, and 1.5 cubits the width of each frame. Each frame had 2 pegs for fitting together. He did this for all the frames of the tabernacle. The frames for the tabernacle he made in this way: 20 frames for the south side. He made 40 bases of silver under 20 frames, 2 bases under the first frame for its 2 pegs, and 2 bases under the next frames for its 2 pegs. For the second side of the tabernacle on the north side, he made 20 frames, and there are 40 bases of silver, 2 bases under the first frame and 2 bases under the next frame. For the rear of the tabernacle westward, he made 6 frames. He made 2 frames for the corners of the tabernacle in the rear. They were separate beneath, but joined at the top at the first frame. He made 2 of them in this way for the 2 corners. There were 8 frames with their bases silver, 16 bases under every frame, 2 bases. Finally, there is a fucking light at the end of this tunnel. All right. He made bars of acacia wood, 5 for the frames of one side of the tabernacle, and 5 bars for the frames of the other side of the tabernacle, and 5 bars for the frames of the tabernacle at the rear westward. He made the middle bar to pass through from end to end halfway up the frames. And he overlaid the frames with gold and made rings of gold for them to hold the bars, and overlaid the bars with gold. He made the curtain of blue, purple, and crimson yarns and fine twisted linen with cherubim skillfully worked into it. He made for it 4 pillars of acacia wood and overlaid them with gold. Their hooks were of gold, and he cast for them 4 bases of silver. He also made a screen for the entrance to the tent of blue, purple, and crimson yarns and fine twisted linen embroidered with needlework, and its 5 pillars with their hooks. He overlaid their capitals and their bases with gold, but their 5 bases were of bronze. Jason, please tell me there is a way to make these 38 verses of a lot of repetitive bullshit interesting. Please tell me there's something interesting hiding in here.
Well, not to be a disappointment, but we kind of covered all of that in chapter 26, I believe, when I believe it was the priestly author basically took this chapter and just expounded upon it, just made it even longer than what you just read. Basically, I think like chapters like 34 to 37 or 35 to 37, something like that, gets spread out over about 6 or 8 chapters back in like the late 20s to early 30s, if I remember correctly. And this right here is basically the older version of it that's actually, quite a bit shorter than the newer versions, which we've already covered. As for little, juicy tidbits, there's really not much. Bezalel is basically listed as this chief craftsman. He's meant to be someone important. As far as who he actually is, we don't really know. His name means in the shadow of El or in the protection of El. So obviously this dude has a theophoric name, which, was pretty common. And he appears again in 1 Chronicles chapter 2, verse 18. Other than that, we really don't know anything about him, okay? He's just supposed to be someone important, and he makes stuff for the temple. The end. And as for anything else, we have like the skill and knowledge that these craftsmen have is something that's given to them by Yahweh. And this is that whole idea of divine knowledge being properly given. If it's improperly given, then that's like a huge red flag, and you should avoid any improperly given knowledge. Okay, hence the Garden of Eden story. Next up, we have the whole thing about the people. They're giving all of this stuff to the temple. And eventually the temple priests are like, okay, hang on. Y'all got to chill out. We've got way too much, okay? Basically what they're saying here is, look, if you're ever wondering if you're giving too much to the temple, don't worry about it. The priest will tell you if you're giving too much, which they never will. Okay? These things were like elaborate complexes. They had a staff of hundreds of people working there. It was a small city. Okay? The story in the Gospels of Jesus going in and he clears out all the people in the temple. The courtyard of this thing was like the size of a football field, and it was filled with all these tables and booths and stuff like that. It had its own guards that patrolled to prevent, exactly that sort of thing from happening. So you would need a small army to clear this thing out, okay?
Wow.
And that's just a courtyard. That's not, the central building, all the outbuildings. It was a massive complex. It was enormous, okay? It needed a lot of offerings, okay? And it needed a lot of money to run the place. So you were never going to give enough, okay? And that's kind of the purpose of this. Oh, no, just keep on giving till we tell you to stop. It's basically like me at the Italian restaurant and the waiter's over there with the little grater and the Parmesan cheese.
Yes.
Like, oh, yeah, just say when you've had enough. And I'm just letting it pile on, and my girlfriend's shaking her head, and it just... Yeah, I'm never going to tell the guy to stop, okay?
No.
We stop when he runs out of cheese, okay?
There you go. There you go.
So that's what that's about, okay? And then it talks about the curtain, the hangings that go around the temple, and it has the cherubim embroidered in there. These aren't the little Greek naked baby angels, that fly around and shoot little heart-shaped arrows at people. It was a humanoid. It had hooves instead of feet. It had 4 wings. Ooh. 2 of them were used for flying. The other 2 covered its body. And it had 1 head but 4 faces. A human face in front, a lion to the right, a bull to the left, and an eagle facing the rear. And in the end of Genesis 3, they have one carrying a flaming sword. The purpose of them, they were a guardian monster. They prevented people from going where they didn't belong, such as back into the Garden of Eden or into the temple, which is sort of meant to be like the Garden of Eden. Remember, Eden was originally thought of to be a place up in the heavens, and then later it was relocated to Mesopotamia and then to Jerusalem, but it's supposed to be like the heavenly palace garden of the gods, okay? And you surrounded it with these guardian monsters. And this is similar to the monsters that the Babylonians had guarding their temples, or the Great Sphinx of Egypt, things like that. This was common in the ancient world. It was a monster that prevented people from going where they didn't belong, like gargoyles on a cathedral, okay?
Yeah.
It's like, dude, heck off, okay? This is meant to be scary, So, Yeah, I think like if we did this in modern times, it would be like a red panda showing you its paws, and you'd be like, "Whoa, dude, calm down." So yeah, that's basically what we have here, and we get a really good description of them in I believe Ezekiel chapter 1, and it like goes through and tells it like all the details of it, like really spells it out quite clearly.
Interesting.
So yeah, that's basically what we got in this chapter, and like I said,
Okay.
we kind of covered this a few episodes ago.
Like when I read it, it was feeling a lot like deja vu. And then I
Yeah.
also remember reading through this as a child and just trying to figure out, like, what am I supposed to be learning here? And of course, because that was my understanding as a young believer, is that the Bible is a message to me as an individual. And so when you're reading chapters like Exodus chapter 36, it's really hard to figure out what the fuck God is trying to say to you.
Yeah. And it's people talking about the second temple and how awesome it is, and saying this is why we built it the way we did, because once upon a time Yahweh told us to make a tent that looked like it, and now later we made one out of stone.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful. All right. So, well, I did see we had another super chat pop up. Norbert, man, bless you, brother. Thank you. He said, love you guys. Keep keeping it up. We show enough will, man, and we always appreciate having you in here.
By the time we
beautiful.
finish Exodus, Norbert is going to be broke. I mean,
right?
that dude,
like, man, right?
Dude is
my
slinging
goodness.
some cash.
Oh, I love it. I love it. All right, so let me get my screen back up here, and we will pick up with our next chapter. Did I add it to the stage? Let me see. Maybe I need to click something. Where's my screen? I think I removed it. There we are. And I think this might be a record. We're only 17 minutes in when we're already at chapter 2. Maybe I need to be in a rush more often. I don't know. Not chapter 2, but the second one. Yeah. All right, so here we are. And this one is labeled Making the Ark of the Covenant. So let's see how interesting this gets. Bezalel made the Ark of acacia wood. It was 2.5 cubits long. Oh, it's starting off this way again. A cubit and a half wide and a cubit and a half high. He overlaid it with pure gold inside and outside and made a molding of gold around it. He cast for it 4 rings of gold for its 4 feet, 2 rings on its one side and 2 rings on its other side. He made poles of acacia wood and overlaid them with gold and put the poles into the rings on the sides of the ark. To carry the ark, he made a cover of pure gold. 2 cubits and a half was its length, and 1.5 cubits its width. He made 2 cherubim of hammered gold. At the 2 ends of the cover he made them, 1 cherub at one end and 1 cherub at the other end. Of one piece with the cover he made the cherubim as its 2 ends. The cherubim spread out their wings above, overshadowing the cover with their wings. They faced one another. The faces of the cherubim were turned toward the cover. He also made the table of acacia wood, 2 cubits long, 1 cubit wide, and 1.5 cubits high. He overlaid it with pure gold and made a molding of gold around it. He also made around it a rim 1 handbreadth wide, and he made a molding of gold around the rim. He cast for it 4 rings of gold and fastened the rings to the 4 corners at its 4 legs. The rings that held the poles used for carrying the table were close to the rim. He made the poles of acacia wood to carry the tables and overlaid them with gold. And he made the vessels of pure gold that were to be on the table, its plates and dishes for incense, and its bowls and flagons with which to pour drink offerings. He also made the lampstand of pure gold. The base and the shaft of the lampstand were made of hammered work, giggity. Its cups, its calyxes, and its petals were of one piece with it. There were 6 branches going out of its sides, 3 branches of the lampstand out of one side of it, and 3 branches of the lampstand out of the other side of it. 3 cups shaped like almond blossoms, each with calyx and petals on one branch, and 3 cups shaped like almond blossoms, each with calyx and petals on the other branch. Could have just said each with the same, but okay, I'm not here to judge. So for the 6 branches going out of the lampstand, on the lampstand itself, there were 4 cups shaped like almond blossoms, each with its calyxes and petals. My critique still remains the same. There was a calyx of one piece, and with it with it under the first pair of branches, a calyx of one piece with it under the next pair of branches, and a calyx of one piece with it under the last pair of branches. So for the 6 branches going out of it, their calyxes and their branches were of one piece with it, the whole of it, one hammered piece of pure gold. He made it 7 lamps and its snuffers and its trays of pure gold. He made it and all its utensils of a talent of pure gold. He made the altar of incense of acacia wood, 1 cubit long and 1 cubit wide. It was square and was 2 cubits high. Its horns were of one piece with it. He overlaid it with pure gold, its top and its sides all around and its horns. And he made a molding of gold around it, and 2 golden rings for it under its molding on 2 opposite sides of it, to hold the poles with which to carry. And he made the poles of acacia wood, and overlaid them with gold. He made the holy anointing oil also, and the pure fragrance incense, blended as by the perfumer. I have a question, Jason.
All right, go ahead.
What's up with all the wood? I mean, specifically the acacia wood. Is there any type of significance of this wood having to be this particular type of wood? And I do take that back to what's with all the wood. Giggity.
It's that acacia wood was it was a fine wood. It's expensive. It'd be like us saying, you know what? All of this furniture is made of mahogany or cocobolo or something like that. It's just them saying, look.
Oh, okay.
We've got...
Is that mahogany?
Yeah, we got a nice opulent setup here, okay? And that's really it. It's just them saying that it's nice, okay?
Wow.
And again, this never happened. Okay. They never made like this gigantic thing, this gigantic tent that was like 150 feet long and about 75 feet wide, and, carried around a couple tons of crap to put in it. That never happened. Okay. They're talking about an idealized temple, but they're using the imagery of a tent as like, okay, these were our humble beginnings. This massive thing that no Bedouin tribe would ever be caught dead carrying, that was our humble beginnings, was this fine acacia wood, and everything is gold plated, and these, fine linen hangings, and everything's embroidered, and people are just donating riches and everything else. And then we built a temple based off of that. This wise man named Solomon did that, and he enslaved a bunch of demons to help build the temple, which there's a story in which Solomon trapped a bunch of demons and used them as slave labor to build Yahweh's temple. That's like a whole story. Yeah.
Holy snap. Yeah, I missed that one.
It's awesome. He had like this magic worm that could like cut rock in a perfectly straight line. And he used that to cut the, all the bricks and everything.
Giggity.
Yeah, he had some pretty cool stuff.
That is interesting.
And it's like none of this stuff ever happened. It's just them making up stories about how awesome things were because Yahweh made it awesome, okay? And they're just trying to make these sort of like origin stories for much later creations, okay?
Wow.
Now, pull that thing back up on your screen real quick. Go to the part where he talks about the lampstand.
Let me get this back over here. And lampstand. Yes.
Okay, right there. Verse 17. You can read that one verse and instantly tell if your copy of Exodus comes from the Masoretic text or from one of the many other copies of the book of Exodus. If it says that it's made of pure gold, then it comes from somewhere else. If it comes from the Masoretic text, which our oldest copy is about 1,000 years old. It's what like the Hebrew, the King James is based on, and a lot of others. Also, the Jewish Publication Society Tanakh uses that. If it says that the lampstand is acacia wood that's gold plated, that's the Masoretic text. That's one of the changes that got introduced into the text by the Masoretes. So if it says it's pure gold, it's not the Masoretic text. If it says it's acacia wood with gold plating, Masoretic text.
Wow.
So yeah, and then we got the scene where they've got the little Ark of the Covenant. This is the box that killed all the Nazis in Raiders of the Lost Ark, and it has the little the cherubim with their wings spread over the top. This is a gesture of protection. They're there to protect Yahweh. I mean, that's the purpose of them, right? They're protection monsters. They're guard dogs, okay? And so in here, Yahweh needs protection. He's inside this box, and these things, they hover over him. They protect him with their wings, okay? And you'll see this again in Ezekiel. I think it's Isaiah. He has this vision, and he's like in the temple, and the cherubim are in there, and their wings are spread out over the inside of the Holy of Holies, and Yahweh is down underneath him. He's inside. He's being sheltered by their protective wings. That's the purpose of them, okay?
Okay, hold up. Like, I have to intersect a joke here, right? Because my mind went Yahweh in a box. Like, that doesn't work. That's not a jack in the box that you'd ever really want to play with. Yahweh in a box, and it's already hard to even imagine Yahweh in a box, especially for those of us who are on the more charismatic side of things, where we saw this Yahweh God as omnipotent, from the very beginning, omniscient from the very beginning, omnipresent. But Yahweh in a box doesn't work for me, right? But if Elf on a Shelf works, Yahweh on a Segway might just get the job done. I'd be willing to see that. All right, that's my little interjection of a joke. I had to throw that in there.
You talk about Yahweh on a Segway. Well, before this thing was a box with angels, or not actually angels. The cherubim are never called angels. It's later. It's like medieval period. They're like, oh, these are angels, because they're trying to tidy up the heavens and be like, yeah, we don't have a bunch of divine monsters up there.
No monsters up here.
We've just got different angels.
Yes.
No, the seraphim, cherubim, and ophanim are never called angels. Okay, they are not angels. Angels are these divine messengers that are frequently mistaken for people, and only occasionally do they have wings. They can basically put on wings in order to get where they're going, and then they take them off again. Okay. Okay. They also suffer from male pattern baldness. We have stories and even like paintings and stuff of angels, and they don't have hair. Yeah, it's inescapable, dude. But back what I was saying, it wasn't always a box. The where Yahweh was originally, it was a throne, and it was shaped like a chariot, and it had it was supposed to have these wheels that were covered in jewels and stuff, and that's what the ophanim were. The wheels within wheels that get mentioned in Ezekiel, and everyone's like, oh, it's UFOs. No, that's a allegorized vision of him, of the Babylonians carrying the chariot throne out of the temple. This is where the priest king would sit. So the whole thing where you have the high priest, and he's got like all the fancy stuff on with all the gems and stuff, and there's one for each tribe and all the rest, and he has a little thing to the little Oshkosh Bagosh pocket thing to reach in, and he has the two stones, one white and one black, to help do judgments and stuff like that. And then he's got like the headpiece, and it's got the name of Yahweh on it. Originally, that wasn't the high priest. Originally, that was the king, and he was supposed to be Yahweh. And so he would come out, and people were like, this is Yahweh. And they would basically bow down to essentially worship the dude because he was the divine king. He was the earthly incarnation of Yahweh. And you have repeated mentions of this throughout the Psalms where it talks about how the king is the son of God. And, he's basically like adopted into the family upon his coronation. And so you have this whole annual ceremony where you dress like, you would like strip him of his robes, he'd be humiliated, and then he would come back after defeating the chaos monsters, and then he would be he'd be like reinstalled as the king of Israel. And when that happened, okay, he's now adopted back into the holy pantheon. He ascends to the highest seat of the heavens, and he's now the divine king again. And this is a nature renewal festival. And if that kind of sounds similar to Jesus, he becomes the king of the Jews after he's humiliated, and and then he comes back and he goes up into the heaven and all that. Yeah, that's what it is. Okay.
Wow.
If they're trying to return to the whole thing of the Israelite, high priesthood, divine king sort of thing that they've been missing ever since the Babylonians took over. They got it back briefly, but then they lost it again. So, like what was it? The Maccabees. They came in, they kicked out the Seleucid Empire, and they got the whole thing back. And there was a renewal of the temple, a lot of renovations and stuff. They kind of tore a bunch of stuff down and then rebuilt it. And they actually wrote about that in some apocalyptic literature, about how like this messianic figure like tears down the temple and rebuilds it and all that, and a new priesthood is installed. That was Judas Maccabeus. So like all this happened there. Basically, they wanted to return to this whole divine kingship thing, but they never really got to do it. And that's what Christianity was supposed to be. A divine kingship in the absence of a temple and in the absence of basically Jewish royalty, while they were living under oppression from foreign rule again. And so, yeah, that's the whole point. But yeah, so originally this box was kind of like a Segway. It was Yahweh's scooter. It was his chariot throne, because a chariot was a symbol of military might.
Wow. So, all right. Yeah. Well, listen, man, folks, you heard it here first. For this year, for your Christmas present, don't get an elf on the shelf. Get Yahweh on the Segway. And hopefully you get the one that melts people face off, because, that's always fun. Oh, man. Well, we're pretty much at time tonight, Jason. I know this was a short one, but we did manage to get through 2 chapters. Do you have any last or final thoughts for us before we roll out for this evening?
Not really. We're kind of treading over some stuff we've already covered, but here's the cool part. I know it's been sort of a long journey, but we're almost there. The next episode is probably going to be wrapping the whole thing up and then kind of doing a recap of the book of Exodus, or the month of Exodus, as you were calling it.
Yes, right.
So we got to talk about the altar of burnt offering. There's some cool stuff there. Then we're going to do some stuff over the priestly vestments. And then once it's all done, they're going to set it all up the way it's supposed to be and the way it never actually happened. and that's basically the conclusion of Exodus.
Wow.
But yeah, it's been a long road, and I think we've done a pretty deep dive so far.
Man, this has been lovely. Well, again, thank you for hanging out with me tonight. I'm going to drop you backstage as I say my final farewells. Man, thank you all for hanging out with us this evening. Listen, this has been, I'm so glad and so proud of us for being able to get so much out of this in 34 minutes. And that's starting late. And that was on me. Actually, blame my computer. Don't blame me. I couldn't control it. But I'm so glad that we're able to be here. I do want to remind everybody that immediately after this show, like literally in about 20 minutes, I'll be on the line, which will tonight's show is The Hang Up. And yes, please, we do, Kyle. I just saw it. Let's share it. Thank you. I'll be on the line with Matt Dillahunty tonight. It's the Hang Up. I forgot what the episode is, but we're going to share it in the chat. And so I'd love to see you all over there. I think we're going to have a great time. And then, of course, I'm super excited about next week's episode as we finally get to the conclusion of this and get to talk about this, man, everything that we've learned. And I want to challenge you all to bring your questions back next week, bring your thoughts, maybe take some time this week to watch some of the old Moses movies. And like, I'm thinking about it, like if I had the bandwidth, I would literally just go ahead and plan it. But I feel like if I planned it now, I wouldn't even be able to be there. But I feel like it would be a really cool way to close out this book by going back and watching one of those Charleston Heston Moses movies at a Discord watch night or something. But we'll see what we're going to do. I do have to jump, but thank you all for hanging out with me, with us tonight. Again, please make sure, if you haven't already, like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that alert notification bell. I also want to add, consider sharing this content with anybody who you know that this might be valuable for. And then also, if you really enjoy these episodes, do me a favor, come back after this is published and make sure to leave a comment. That's how the algorithm knows that we had a good time in Bible study tonight. That's how it knows to let other folks know to come back next week. And then, of course, you can do the same as well. Also, consider joining, supporting, or connecting with our community channel or content in any way that makes sense for you. And of course, as always, check out our merch, check out our books, because there's so much stuff out there, and you check it out, see what you like. I think that's all I have for you now. I got to get on the right page so I can get this thing closed out. But until next time, man, y'all enjoy yourselves, stay progressive, keep rising. And as I like to say, stay beautiful. But you know, that's only if you can. You know what I'm saying? You do what you can while you can. I'll see y'all in a few.
I was living my life in the servitude of misunderstandings of people I loved. Giving it all, it was never enough. Because of the fall, I could never get up. I moved on from their misunderstandings. I am no longer standing under them. I was drowning, now I swim, 'cause I